Welcome to First Alarm Family First. I have to say, one of the coolest things about what we've been doing is the people who we have met. I'm Jen Herrera alongside Carolyn Acosta. Carolyn, every single day people reach out to us for different reasons, and we're so thankful for that. And our guest today came about
Yes,
that way.
yes. Today we are excited to speak to Karen Woods, a therapist with 30 years experience. Karen specializes in supporting first responders, a passion that comes from her personal experience. Her father, a police officer, tragically died by suicide. This loss, along with her professional background, drives her mission to break the stigma of mental health in the first responder community. Thanks, Karen, for being here today. Please
Thank you
share
so much for having me.
and what pursued you to go for this career in mental health.
Oh, I knew in sixth grade I was going to be a therapist. It just, it spoke to me. Everybody in sixth grade, people would come to me and talk to me about their problems. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So I know, right?
People just know. I'm going to kind of get heavy right away. Had your father already passed at that point, or did that come later?
No, that happened when I was 30.
Oh, wow. How does that, for lack of a better way, a more elegant way of putting this, how does that hit differently, Karen, because you're from the field that you're from and you've been doing this for decades? How does something like that hit differently?
Okay. Well, I had already been working in a lot of crisis situations, positions, juvenile justice, DCF, things like that, DCF adjacent, things like that. And, I had never worked in the first responder specialty, but I knew that my father was struggling because he had to retire when he was about 40 because he got injured on the job. And so his identity was taken from him. And after that, he tried to find hobbies. My mom was not supportive. She was frustrated. She had to work and it took him down. He went to depression. He had chronic pain, and I have to say, I totally understand why he did what he did because I watched him go through this chronic pain, and which was the reason why he was forced into retirement at a young age. So he was doing a home search during the winter time in New Jersey Shore, and he had to go down basement stairs, and there was ice on the basement stairs, and he slipped and he shattered his knee. And then what happened was that time came where he was probably 55, and he was in chronic pain. He couldn't do a ton of stuff. He was in recovery as well and was only allowed to take soma, but he was falling asleep in his mashed potatoes. So for real,
Yeah.
not even a joke about that. And my mother was very, very frustrated with it. And I said to my father the night before he died, I know you're going to die. I know you're going to die. I just don't know if it's going to be by your hand or by God. So sorry, tough story. And then the next day I got a phone call, and it was a stranger calling from my parents' house. And they said, you need to come here. And I had my 8-month-old in the back seat of the car.
Losing your father is such a personal and difficult experience. I mean,
Yeah.
myself. How did his loss impact you, and how did it influence you to help first responders?
I don't want people to go through what I went through. I don't want people to go through what my dad went through. I don't want people to go through what my kids go through without a grandfather that they never met. And I know so intimately about the culture. I got trained, tons of training in first responder work and debriefing, things like that. And so now that's what I do. That's not my whole job because that would be completely exhausting. Yeah, I felt like I had to help other people because I know to this day that there is not much help. And the culture of the first responders is just not so great. There's a whole lot of stigma. There's a whole lot of politics. There's a whole lot of a lot of things.
Karen, I want to ask you about your mom and how you said she was frustrated and how she was handling it when your dad got really bad. And I say this without any judgment.
Of course.
As the spouses of first responders,
Hmm.
naturally, I think we have an expectation of them, right? We either the daughter of a first responder or a spouse of a first responder, it doesn't matter, brother, sister, whatever. We have this expectation, right? There's that hero complex from us. Like we expect them to be strong and have their shit together and to not be weak and to not fall apart. Do you with your mom, did you see her whole perception of her husband change?
Yes, and it's interesting that you say that because I had that hero complex with my father. So they came in and bombarded me with a whole lot of bad stuff. And my mother was checked out. So my father drank the Listerine. He drank my husband's, 20-year-old bottle of German wine that he had been holding on to. I was 23, 24. And she made me pour him into the car and sit there with him. Of course I did it. I didn't even think about it at the time. But, reflecting back on it so many times since then, I just can't believe that I was put in that position. And from there forward, my mother she just checked out with him and she worked and he tried to work. He got a couple jobs and just he couldn't do it. Chronic pain equals depression. So, he made it like another 20 years. And then that was the end of that.
You've worked with so many individuals, different walks of life. I'm curious, what's the misconception that people have about therapy, especially a first responder, law enforcement?
Confidentiality would be number one.
Really?
Number one. But when they come and they realize that I relate, they keep coming back. And it's a blessing. It really is.
We talk about demons, we talk about early childhood traumas. I just want to ask about your dad because I assume that you would know his situation better than most.
Yes, I do.
Do you think the job kind of brought out traumas from
Absolutely.
contributed? Like, was there, because we find there's often a backstory.
Absolutely. And I didn't find out that backstory until he died. So another interesting part of this story is that my father had a therapy session booked for the day after he died. And I called that therapist. Didn't know that therapist, didn't know he had an appointment. I found out he had an appointment, called the therapist, told her what happened, and asked her if I could have his appointment. So I met with her, and she told me that my father had PTSD, and he thought he maybe had shot and killed someone, but he didn't know for sure. And he walked with that.
Mm-hmm. Very valid.
Nobody knew that.
Not even your mom.
I don't know. Because she doesn't
That's
get
tough.
it.
Yeah.
I don't, and she also, her repeated comment is, I don't look at the past.
So many obviously many first responders, they worry about job security, confidentiality. How do you address that? Like, what do you tell them?
We talk about sports. We talk about anything other than until they're ready to talk. And then once they're ready to talk, we go and they go, and then they realize I'm in a safe space. Because I tell them, like, no matter what you say, we're cool right here in this spot right here. So, and that is everything to them because they have so many things to say that they can't say in their environment.
Karen, have you seen an uptick?
Absolutely. I have, and I think the reason why I see that is because the first responders that I see tell other first responders, and then that's like it's permission. Yeah. So they finally get the permission because someone can say to them, like, hey, I reached out, I got help. This person gets it. Go to her. She's not going to sell you out, and you can tell her anything. So I get a good number of first responders, and I have a couple cities in my area that really the human resources, they're just like, Karen, go to Karen.
Is it when they come in, and obviously we're not going to violate anybody's, any confidentiality here, but I'm curious. When they come in, is it the result of something traumatic that they saw on a call, or is it just kind of like an overall, I got to talk about it, I got to let stuff out?
It's both. It's both. Yeah. Some of them come in. I actually have two clients right now. One of them has a personal issue and relationship issue, but I mean, we have to acknowledge that relationship issues come from this type of job as well, because it's so hard to juggle. This life is so much different than that life. And when you have children and you have to bring all that together, it's too much. It's a lot.
Heavy.
It really shows you how hardcore like this community is inside, except they can't be outside.
And I
And
think
that's
that
our problem.
is breaking that stigma in society
Yes.
because, suicide before my husband did this, I thought it was the worst of the worst. I mean, how can somebody be so selfish and how can someone just think of themselves? And my whole thinking of that has changed completely. They're obviously not in the right state of mind and they think that
Yes.
they're doing a favor here. And it's sad because these men and women have given so much of themselves to this profession that they don't feel like it's okay to ask for help. That's the part I think that really just hurts and strikes the most, is that they don't feel like they should be able to ask.
Right. And the only thing that we can do for them post is to understand, because they didn't do it to us.
No.
Karen, you mentioned your father's alcohol dependency. We hear this a lot too, whether it's drugs, alcohol, substance use. What's the correlation there?
Too much stress, go home, drink it away, go to sleep, go back. And my father was sober for 13 years, but we found this, I don't know, maybe like little pint bottle of vodka tucked under the couch on the day he died. My father actually took a cab to a Walgreens and bought a t-shirt and a pint of vodka and went in the backyard so that he wouldn't put anybody out. He didn't want to mess up any of his actual clothes that he owned. He didn't want to mess up the house. So he went in the backyard in a place where he knew that someone would find him, because they lived in an area where it was like, it's not fenced. It's just a common area where there's like a walking path right there at the backyard. So he waited until two people walked past him and then waited for them to be about, a few yards away, and then did it so that he knew that they would find him before any of us. It was very well thought out. We found all of these files that he had put together to help my mother know how to do an oil change, and it was really unbelievable. Yeah.
Karen, does that make it, I'm sorry, if you were going to jump in, does that make it harder in a way, because we know that people who are suffering like this, they're not thinking clearly, yet you have this incredibly rational list of events that have taken place. So
Right.
how do you understand that?
I have processed the hell out of this.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get everything he did, because he was a good guy. He was a good guy, and he knew. And I knew. Like I said to him the night before, I know something's going to happen. And he knew that I knew at that point. So in a way, I feel like maybe I gave him permission, but I don't feel bad about that. My tears come from, I miss him.
Yeah.
He was my dude.
But this is thinking, I mean, it means so much to me, to other people too, who have obviously gone through the same, that, sharing, we all, I understand your pain. It's tough. We can't even.
Yeah.
How do you,
I'm sorry, Jen.
go,
What are
go.
tools or strategies that you recommend? Let's say that there's a wife or a family member who has a first responder who's struggling. Like, how do they approach them?
Word of mouth, where if someone's seeing someone, which happens to me a lot, I get clients because someone sees someone who's struggling and they just pull them aside And they say, like, no pressure, but just in case, I know somebody. And that's where a lot of people come from, other than the cities that I am connected with. But I get more connected with the cities because I have this word of mouth. So it kind of comes all around.
Karen, so we can let everybody know you are currently taking on new clients and where can
I
people?
am. Yes. And I am certified in working with first responders. That was fun. That was crazy. Yeah. I had to put on the fire gear. I had to go into like a mock burning building, and I had to hear a lot of stories that were pretty hardcore. But then, I hear a lot of stories in my office that are pretty hardcore. But the trauma that these people see on a regular basis is just, like, unless you're dead inside, how do you not get affected by it? So, I think people can maybe act like that they're not affected by it, but how could you not be affected by seeing the things that they see on a regular basis?
Well, listen, the ethics, the ideas are there. People know your name and they're going to see you. And I think those are just steps in the right direction with what we're all trying to do.
I hope that, someone finds a budget for this kind of help, because they shouldn't have to drive to me. But if they want to drive to me, I'm there.
Yeah. Can you tell everybody how to find you, Karen? What's the best way?
You can go to browardcounseling.com, or you can call me at 954-529-0885. Sorry, that's my admin's number, so I have to kind of remember it. 529-0885. And I have openings, and I always make openings, especially for first responders. I will find extra time. So
Thank you, Karen, again for reaching out. It means a lot. Thank you.
thank you for inviting me.
We always remind people watching if they see something to sound the alarm.
Save a life.
Amen.
Take care.
Amen. You too. Bye-bye.